All right, guys, it's your host again, Anthony Mitchell, and I am back with another edition of the End Zone Club, where we have conversations that are designed to push you from walking in potential to actually fulfilling your purpose. You know what, guys? I want to reach out to my listeners today, first thing first, to say thank you again for supporting us and making us up what we are. Now, this has been a part-time, limited series podcast and recently got some analytics back. And would you be surprised if I told you in our category, we are ranked in the great, is it state or nation? But in Australia, we are ranked in their viewership. Now, to me, that's mind-blowing because I've never been to Australia. But yet, God has opened doors for what we are doing to be out there. So kudos, shout out, and not just Australia. I've seen us in the Philippines. I've seen us in several other countries. So that's mind-blowing to me that places we have never been, God has opened doors. But with that being said, I want to get into today's topic, which is originality. Or maybe I should rewind it a little bit and say, is there a such thing as originality anymore? But before I get into that, guys, it's a sports weekend, and you guys, some of you may know this, some of you may not, but I'm a big 49er fan, and we are getting ready to lock horns with the Los Angeles Rams. Now, this is funny to me that probably for the first time, I think since 1990s, 1990 maybe to be exact, the 49ers and Rams are getting ready to face off in the playoffs. We're division rivals, long history there. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's a good moment that after starting the season as bad as we did, to be here where we are, that we're on the cusp of going to another Super Bowl. Now, I could poke fun at the Dallas Cowboy fans, but they do support this podcast, so I will not do that in the spirit of good humor. But with that said, guys, just jumping on to today's topic of originality. I was noticing some things over the last few years, and that's just this idea that in this fear of social media, albeit TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, there were many people that have actually earned a pretty good living being comedic, being artistic, being entertaining, and, sometimes showing live content as vloggers and bloggers. And then there are those that are in the sphere of motivational speaking. And for those that have gotten a good living or earned a living or gotten monetization off of these platforms, I noticed that sometimes there's this weird gray area where you're always looking for new content. You're always looking for something else to talk about, something else to explore. You're looking for the next great joke. You're looking for the next idea that, in essence, is captivating people's attention. But sometimes in order to do that, I am seeing more and more content creators swerving from the lane of being content creators to basically culture vultures. Well, maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it's not culture vultures. But what they are doing is they are borrowing content from other people. One of these conversations recently popped up in my own life, in that I know an individual or several individuals who have made money off of their platform. But I noticed that a lot of their content aren't ideas. They're not their own thoughts. They're not things that they themselves have come up with. What they're doing is surfing through the internet, seeing somebody that, maybe makes a post that's not getting attention, but it's a phenomenal idea. And then they copy and paste these posts to their platforms. Maybe they're copying and pasting these ideas to their platforms or whatever they're doing. And it's kind of sad. It's sad because the person that is putting this idea out there first is not getting credit for their work. And then the person that's receiving the credit actually did none of the work in establishing this thought. We live in this realm where, again, we're in need of constant satisfaction. And as you see, even based with algorithms, right? Take TikTok, for example. The algorithm says that if you post a video 7 seconds or less, maybe use one of a few sounds, which we're going to get into in a few minutes, use one of a couple of sounds, that they will tend to push your content more than the person that's got, maybe it's a 2-minute or 3-minute video, because what they're doing, they're trying to get you in and on to the next video. So by doing a 7-second video, that's within that 15-second attention span where people decide whether they like it or not, and that magic number is scrolled to the next. Think about it. Used to take artists years, and I mean years, to work circuits. Comedians used to work circuits for years. They would go through the laugh clubs. They would go through all of these smaller venues. They would get heckled. They would get laughed at. They would get talked about. They would bomb jokes in front of people that wouldn't laugh. But what happens is it caused them to hone their chops. It caused them to really work at their skill. It caused them to, in some places they failed, to now have a driving desire to come back to that same place and to perform. To not this time bomb a joke, but to be better than everything you're hitting. Maybe if I can get 5 laughs the next time, that's success. But now, over time, where they were having measurable successes, measurable obtainable goals, and they were getting to a point where they're no longer failing, but every time they're going places, they're able to establish that connection with a crowd. That's what provided us seasonal talents like Dave Chappelle. Well, I even shouldn't say seasonal, because Dave is a legend in his own right. I know he's under a lot of fire for some things he said, but comedically, you can't take anything away from him. But before he got to this point, you know, he was laughed at and talked about because he had so many failed pilots for shows, or he had been in so many movies that nobody even noticed him in, but it was making him better every time. Listen to stories of like Eddie Murphy, or not even just comedians. You can look at songwriters. You can look at artists. You think Kanye West's first song was a hit? Do you think Stevie Wonder, as great as he has been as a legend, don't you know when he was first advertised as a singer, they had him singing Ray Charles's music simply because they thought, oh, he's blind and he plays like Ray. Maybe that's where his niche is at. But now in this fear of social media where 7 seconds can make you a talented star, it can make you known, it can make you famous, that added component of learning your craft is missing. Hey, young people, especially you by way of whatever form of listening you're doing, I want you to catch the significance of what I'm talking about. Whatever you do as a craft, whatever you do as a trade, whatever you do as a skill and vocation, make sure you know that thing through and through enough that you can teach it to somebody else. That's the end goal. Become a subject matter expert. If it's in TikTok, know how to work the algorithms. If it's in YouTube, know how to do your camera angles, know how to edit your sound, know how to edit your video so you are not dependent on anybody else. As I was mulling over this thought of the lack of originality and creativity and the need for more that we live in, I was listening to actually a famous internet comedian, and Ryan Davis, who we have seen over the past few years, we have seen his star explode. You know, at one time he had a handle on Facebook that said, "Who is Ryan Davis?" Now I've seen him even at Issa Rae shows. I'm seeing him work at his circuit. So shout out to Ryan Davis. But I was listening to Ryan talk about the same thing, and he was making mention of this young man who was a comedian who was putting out a lot of content. It took him a long time to get enough subscribers and people liking his stuff to where he became verified. But then there was a young lady that was stealing all of his content, and she got verified just in a matter of months. Now, do know that There is no shortcut to doing things. If whatever you build builds quickly, like overnight, if it's fast, it won't last. Let me say that again. If anything you're building is buildable overnight, if it's erected tonight and then tomorrow morning everybody's standing in awe, it will not last. You got to know what your foundation is. You got to sometimes not just be talented, but sometimes that time of development that gets you from starting a podcast, that time of development that gets you from starting to learn how to draw or learn how to sing or learn how to catch a football. As your skill and talent is developing, so are you as a person. You become a lot more understanding of how you fit into the environment around you when you're able to grow with your talent. So, on the flip side of this conversation, for those of you who are doing things the right way, those of you who are actually putting in the work to learn your craft and you're not stealing from other people, shout out to you. I guarantee 15 years from now, if you look back, yes, it may look like you're starting slower than other people, but I guarantee you'll have longer sustained success. Why do you think sometimes you're looking at a lot of comedians that are back and forth with each other in the media, social media? Why do you think you look at sometimes a comedian everybody knows and he's firing shots at another comedian and you're like, is he jealous? Sometimes it's not about jealousy. It's about maybe he feels like this guy didn't give him or girl didn't give them credit for work that they done. That's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope. But for the sake of this conversation, do know that God made each of us original. God made each of us gifted in our own rights. God made each of us able to produce ideas that will sustain us through life, whether it's as a hobby, whether it's for fun, or whether it's for a living. Your thought process, the way you think about how you're doing things, will ultimately determine your altitude. Now, if you've never flown in an airplane, you may not understand the significance of altitudes, but most successful fights that are flown by a pilot all take place at certain altitudes. Within those altitudes, of course, it's supposed to alleviate you from running into certain interferences and different things. And when you have the potential to soar, when you have the potential to fly high, you sometimes have to rise up a little bit. Don't take the easy way out. Don't take the shortcut. Don't take the obvious path that a lot of others are taking. And, oh man, can I get in trouble for this? Good, because I really don't care. But I have to say this, because even with social media, again, we're coming back to a point that anybody that's successful, at some point, you probably have a need to be verified. You have a need to go viral with something, which is what gets your name out. The more people seeing what you're putting out, the more likely they are to share the word, or, word of mouth, or saying, hey, I'm going to share this with a friend because I thought it was funny, or I thought it was an information or a service that I could use. This applies in the business world as well. But I want you to notice on TikTok, for example, and this is not a knock at TikTok, because it applies to every other social media form, but we're all dancing to the same trendy song, right? We're all using the same quotes from the same speaker. We're all going back to the same source on a lot of things. And now if you're paying attention, like Birdman, he had the infamous interview with the Breakfast Club where he walked in there and he was like, hey, put some respect on my name. That went viral. Now, almost half of the viral videos on social media are dancing to that song. You see how that works? It's like, instead of people going viral with their own music or coming up with their own dances, it's like we're doing the same exact dance to the same exact songs, and nobody thinks, is this okay? What happens when we as a society all sound the same, dance the same, use the same? I mean, where is the originality in that? I'm not saying it's not fun to watch, but every once in a while you want to see somebody dare to be different. Every once in a while. You want to see somebody there to see what's in them and think, how can I cultivate this? How could I bring this out a little more? How could I get full enjoyment from what God has put in my life? I think on this note, we're going to end. But before we end, I want to encourage you guys to support my San Francisco 49ers this week. Check on me, right? In the event, just getting emotional, but in the event we don't make it to the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, and also guys, also by reason of my listeners, I want to encourage you to jump on GoFundMe real quickly. I have a fundraiser going on. Every year, my wife and I, we do free events in the community. And one thing we're always trying to do is bring in influential people, albeit, NFL players, former NFL players. We've worked with WNBA people, about to say guys, but anyway, WNBA basketball players and people from all kinds of walks of life. We've done free dance camps, free back-to-school events where we give out school supplies. Where we give out school supplies, and all of that has been made possible by people like you. I encourage you, if you're listening to this broadcast, albeit through YouTube or Podbean or Anchor or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to this at, go to www.gofundme.com/GoAnt. That's GOANT. Again, that's www.gofundme.com/GoAnt, GOANT. And I encourage you to support us in whatever capacity you can. And do know, guys, that I will be issuing a free giveaway. So you may get a free item in the mail just by reason of